Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Mike.
I guess we could probably drop the good morning piece because it's like literally morning for us, but not necessarily for everyone else who's listening.
I mean, it would be weirder if we said good afternoon or good night. I think listen,
Maybe just
everyone's
hello?
in Midwest time. Dude, it's been 400 and
We're just trying to be nice.
I think that's true. So
ever since Seth left, it's been a little bit hard with figuring out what's the right intro here. We let Seth
we have no
Tuesday.
tagline. Yeah,
we have no tagline in the morning.
We have we got to pick up the mantle.
Yes, exactly. So, well, that being said, a couple items for today. So today our main topic will be around giving people their data. We're thinking through subscriptions and how that interacts with the system and what can we do there? And maybe what's the right positioning or place or location to place your subscriptions for your Power BI reporting. All right. Any other news or things that are coming up, Tommy? We are recording this episode. It's kind of the only other really news item I can think of here for today. We are coming back from Fabric Conference. This is actually during the time of Fabric Conference. So I hope if you were there at the Fabric Conference, you're enjoying yourself, having a good time. I'm going to assume it's a great conference because I was there last year and this is recorded early. So we hope everyone who's attending or is watching online, if there's any online sessions, is enjoying the conference. Any other news items, Tommy, you'd come up with?
No, I think I realized that our busy season is spring. That's when all the conferences are going on.
My word,
man! And just to keep the amount of recordings we've done, I've seen you more than I want to. So it's been
True
fun.
Statement.
But yeah, we have all the conferences, all the things going on. It just seems that's when things really pick up is in March.
Yeah, it's been very busy for us this year. Just all the conferences and everything that's happening with traveling a little bit. Tommy, you've been over to all across the U.S. at this point. So I've been out to I've been over to the Netherlands for a conference and then back, and then it's just been busy. It just feels like this part of the year is very busy part of the year. I don't know what it is, but all the conferences seem to kind of pile up around the same time, which is kind of crazy. But anyways, it is what it is. We're going to get through it, and then we're going to hit summertime at some point. So that'll be fun. All right, let's dive into our main topic today. Tommy, give us an introduction. Like, where are you thinking this is going to go? We're talking about subscriptions, either for Power BI reports or even, I guess, paginated reports as well. There's multiple places where you can subscribe to what content is coming out of PowerBI.com. Let's unpack this a little bit.
Yes, we have not given email subscriptions a ton of love on our podcast yet. Honestly, for a lot of organizations, a lot of people, let me say this the way I want to. The perception of email subscriptions are critically important. And that may be the angle I'm actually going to be taking, whether it's true or not. But really the idea is this: email subscriptions are something that Microsoft's put a lot of effort in. And it has a lot of features now, both for paginated, but even just standard reporting has more than just, we're going to send you a nice picture once a day. With all that in mind, this is still a question that I get from teams, organizations that are starting off, at least initially with Power BI, is, well, what about this tool? It gave us an email that had yada, yada every day. Can Power BI do that? Can we get our email subscriptions? Now we're going to tie in a little extra with Fabric. Is there a better way? Is there a different way with either the Lakehouse or some other automation, or still email subscriptions the standard for consumers to get their data on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is an area, Tommy, where I'm really torn a little bit about this one. I have a lot of thoughts on, does it make sense for us to automate the pushing of reports to people, or does it not necessarily? I mean, I'm going to tell you, this is a topic that I explain that how it works. I can show people in Power BI service, like how to get scheduling reports. There's even this thing now, I think it's inside paginated reports. You can do dynamic.
Standard reporting too.
A standard reporting, you can do dynamic subscriptions, which basically means you can apply a filter to the data. The report can filter down by a particular user. Those users need to be part of the data set. So once you are filtering the data by their username or their email address, the report can change the context and then get sent out. So here's my rub on this one, Tommy. My thought on this is subscriptions I understand, but I feel like having something sent to your inbox, your email inbox, where it's a static item, it's a PDF or images of the report. That to me is like, okay, I understand, but that just defeats the purpose of having live data in a report in the service always up to date. Like every day, it's always up to date. So, I mean, I understand that you're maybe reducing a couple extra clicks, but what is the purpose? Like what I can't get my head around is like what's the downstream effect of this that you require every day a report to show up? And I feel like I'm arguing here. When this happens, it feels like people use those reports for the first month, couple months, maybe more. I don't know. But at some point, it just becomes this humdrum like, oh, that's the email. I just make a rule in my inbox to automatically file it away into a folder or automatically mark it as read because it's just the data. And to me, it feels, I'm going to say this word, but it's not going to be right. It feels old school and not how my opinion on that one.
So,
What do you think, Tommy?
honestly, I'll say right off the bat, there's a lot of I agree with that, but I want to take it a step back, and there's still the idea here, Mike, that I want to kind of unbox is, well,
Okay.
why do people want data that way? Still, because again,
Yeah.
this is still a question I get, regardless if it's an email
Yes.
subscription or a different way. And again, from the tool and the practicality, I think we're on the same page. But there's still this innate desire, this some type of nature where people are still wanting this or desiring this in this way. And that's where I want to start because I agree with you. Everything about it is like, okay, it goes in an email folder. There's nothing you can interact with it. It's a picture, and if you're really
Yes.
fancy, it's a CSV. What are you going to do with that every day or every week?
Yes.
But again, I think there's a bigger question here because I get this all the time still, Mike, is about this. Why do you think this is still critical for people or really important that they get data sent to them?
I mean, and again, this is maybe where I'm lacking a little bit of understanding here on like maybe the use case behind this, but I really feel like the use case of this should be like to explore some of the data and maybe adjust some of the filters. Yeah, I mean, how many reports have you built, Tommy, that you can immediately look at a screenshot of the report and immediately know what to
None.
do for the rest of your day? I mean, I'm not going to say none. It's not going to be that stark, but like very few, I would say,
Yeah.
right? You're going to need to do like a little, like the whole idea of building a report in Power BI. So let's talk about just reports. Let's not talk about paginated or CSV. I think that serves a whole different purpose. But if we're talking about like the report, like the idea here is, hey, we are trying to build an experience for you to look at some of your data, dive into the information and potentially go from page 1 to page 2. Here's some summary information and here's some detail information. If you can build a report that's immediately actionable off of that one screenshot of that homepage of the main report, I mean, good on you, because that's quite challenging to do because you have to really understand the business use case and you have to be able to provide exactly the right visuals so that that user can look at the report and immediately leave and go do something. Maybe this is something where I can see a use case around the reason why we're doing this is because we want to show you the report. Does it look interesting to you? And if it looks interesting, then go to powerbi.com and then interact with the report. Maybe it's something along those lines. You're like just trying to be notified about like what it is. It's very passive, maybe in that regard, but I don't feel like it's the right experience.
So first, you said my trigger word, and that's interesting, which is the worst word in analytics by bar none. You know why it's the worst word in analytics? Because
it doesn't do anything. There's no action to it.
Dead end. It's a dead end. And here's the thing: if someone finds your email interesting on a report, they're not going to click into it. Maybe, but people have things to do. To me, the reason why this is still a question that I still get are there's two kind of critical factors here that go into this. It's legacy thinking, to your point. That was the best way at the time, or whatever tooling they're coming from that would get their data. Before I would have to click on 18 filters, go to an internet site. The process was a long time to get just a
I'd agree with that.
Of that. So
I agree with the legacy thing. And also if you think about maybe reporting tools before Power BI, it took a long time for it to even get you the data the first time. So like, when like I'm thinking again back to my old days, right? I'm dating myself here a bit, thinking about business objects, right? When let's imagine I had to go get data from there. There was a report. The report would have to take time to render and go get the data at the time of rendering. And so even if it was a table, I would log on online. I would go to like my business objects reports and I would log in. And then even when you click the report wasn't ready to go, meaning like the data wasn't prepared. I had to like click run and it maybe would shoot for like a minute or two. And in that situation, like when we're talking about when a report takes a minute or 2 or 3 to render to get the data together, and then, hey, now you can download it or export it. Okay, that makes more sense, right? That to me, that was a reason why you'd want to email to you, right? Okay, you go prepare the report in front of me somewhere else 3 or 4 minutes before I need it, and then just email me the results. Just tell me when it's done. Right? That makes sense for your legacy thinking, but we don't do that anymore. That's not a thing. You just hit the report within hopefully less than a second. The report renders and there's data in it. So that's changed the experience.
Too, Mike, other tooling still their navigation compared to Power BI, and I'm speaking more specifically of migrations here. It's still I want to say not the best experience, subpar for some other BI tools out there where there's folders. It's really hard to get to what you want. So that the email subscription still plays a role because send me the most important report that I need to see. So I don't have to try to find it because guess what? I am not a Power BI pro. I'm not the expert.
Yeah. So, or it's like, you've got 30 reports and, you need report number 1. That's the data you got to get every day. All the other reports are just you exploring and trying to figure out. So there's this really interesting game between, there's this interesting game between like data that's actionable and data that's explorations, right? So there's this exploration piece of this world that's like, I don't really know what I want to do with the data yet, but something's wrong in the data, and I'm just kind of going to hunt through it to try and find what I'm looking for. Right? Okay. Sorry, that was your first part. You said legacy. Part 2 was what?
Part 2 is really, I think we need to put ourselves in the shoes of certain positions in companies. You talk to a regional sales manager, and this is going to be pretty essential to them, or at least the perception of that. But it's also because of what that report is. I think a lot of times when we get asked for subscriptions, we think just that general report, like the sales report, and we're going to send that, which, doesn't tell you anything. It's impossible for that to actually be actionable. But the types of email subscriptions based on the roles, usually in those legacy things were a little more customized, but for different positions, it's pretty essential because it's going to show for that day or for that week what the new leads are and how they're doing for that week, which it becomes much of a different experience or kind of value to the user. Or you tell me like, hey, I'm the sales rep and this is my last month of quota for the quarter. Yeah, every day I'm going to want to see every day I'm going to want to see where I'm at, if any new people have called, and if it's in the report or whatever that situation is. I'm using sales as the most general one, but that becomes much more critical because, again, that's the first thing that happens when I open up my computer is I check Outlook. That's everyone. That's never going away. But the first thing I see is, here are my leads. I didn't have to find it. I didn't have to apply the right filters to make sure that I'm looking at it the right way. Here's where we're at. Here's what I am at, or my team's at, compared to a specific goal. Now this is much different. Again, I think if we just think in terms of the report, of a general report, we're missing the mark.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to react a little bit to your...
I'm letting it let that simmer.
Let me marinate on this one a little bit.
Yeah, kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
Marinate, right? Okay, so you talked about the second note here around empathy, right? What is the user story and how they interact with the data? And so I think I understand. I didn't quite grasp your story at the very beginning, but I think as you explained it a little bit more to me, I was able to unpack it a bit more. So, I'm in the sales lead team. I want to understand what my performance is right now. How does that link back to other performance areas of this? Let me give a bit more context to some of this, right? So I think I understand the empathy side, right? I do think I understand, people on mobile devices, reports maybe aren't built great for mobile devices, or I'm traveling or I'm on the go. people are very familiar with the interface of Microsoft Outlook or Outlook, your email server, right? Whatever that is. But I would argue here, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to go to a tool that already has an interface and see reports that you should be interacting with inside PowerBI.com. So, in lieu of subscriptions, what if I taught your team a little bit more around data culture, that the data tooling is changing in this world, and no longer are we we're not relying as heavily on emailed subscriptions. Instead, what we're doing is we're going to embed Power BI in Teams. So when you go to Teams, there are reports automatically inside Teams or shortcuts to team channels or Teams areas where you can immediately click a link and go right to the report. I feel like, again, to me, this is a bit of a culture shift here. I understand the empathy part, but how hard is it to go to the Outlook app versus the Power BI app and click on what you want there? I mean, you're doing the same thing. I'm still going to the app. I'm finding the email that is relevant to me. And it just so happens that email is next to all the other, patterns that I'm used to in my normal life, right? I get up, I look, I see the little red dot. Okay, look, there's 3 notifications in email in my Outlook. Click on the Outlook. I read through my messages, anything that I need to take action on. Okay, done. Move on. Next task, right? So, maybe part of this is just data culture education and say, look, we're not going to do this. We're not going to encourage this piece. Rather, we're going to push you to go to the Power BI app, get notifications when data alerts from there. And then that app notifies you, and then you go directly into the Power BI app and use it there. A couple other things I'm just going to point out here. I did a little Googling here on the side. One is you get Power BI in Teams directly. So I spend a lot of time in Teams. I'm always chatting and looking at messages in there. So, in lieu of subscriptions, I would encourage teams to use Microsoft Teams and add the Power BI plugin there, because that puts Power BI right next to all of the other conversations you're having throughout your day. And I think that's a better place to put reporting. Also, I just Googled, you can even add Power BI into your Outlook Online website or the new modern Outlook. So the icons on the left-hand navigation can also be, Teams, to-do lists, and then you can add Power BI as another item, an action item right inside Outlook. And I would also argue this is another one. Teach people how to favorite the reports, highlight the ones they want, and put it right inside Outlook. Like, done. Now you don't need to email anyone. And then it's up to date. And then, in your reports, just add a little flag that says, here's the last updated date time of your report, and done. So I understand your point around empathy, Tommy, but I'm going to push back here just a bit, because I feel like that's just, to me, it feels like it's also going back to like this legacy thinking, right? If I can build you better information, if I can build you better data, so what is the point of sending you the data in an email form? It's not dynamic. It doesn't update. You're now proliferating a snapshot in time of some data. And yes, there are use cases where people just want to see a snapshot of the information over time. I get that. And so sometimes reporting doesn't contain that, or have the data design of the semantic models don't retain snapshots of information. Okay. To me, that's one of the only use cases I could see around emailing or even sending your report to a SharePoint page. I'd rather send the report to SharePoint than to start junking up a bunch of email boxes. Okay, I'm done. I'm done riffing on that one. Go ahead.
So in the distance, if you listen quietly, you can hear the silent cry of people pushing back. I didn't think I was going to be on the other side of this, but hold on.
Let me react to your pushing back. People will push back.
Yeah,
but just because you're used to doing something the way you are, and you're resistant to change, is that right? I don't think that's right anymore.
No. This has nothing to do about used to doing it. Again, what is data supposed to be? If you, at the very rawest form, is supposed to be just another way to convey information. There are a lot of positions in a lot of roles where I don't need most things in Power BI. Sorry, that's just the situation. I do need something. I do need a little, but enough for the app and to go there and to find it. And is everything already pre-filtered for me? I'm a busy person. I got things to do. I just want to know, snapshot, where am I at today? What do I need to, what is a quick bits of information? I don't need to explore, and I don't need to dive into other reports. And I know that sounds maybe it sounds short-sighted, but this is a lot of roles, a lot of people. I would wish everyone was loved reports and loved diving into data. That's just not the use case. Now, just sending a picture of a general report, again, I completely agree with you. We're on the same
Minimal
page.
usage.
Minimal usage.
Minimal.
Yeah, if any, it probably hurts more than actually helps. That would be my opinion.
I think it makes it more
But
difficult to manage data
I
than
agree.
it helps.
I agree.
Honestly,
But
yeah.
you have to consider there are some types of again, if all reporting is information, it's just email and number form. That's really what it is. That's what reports are supposed to be. Help you convey some information. There are some types of email subscriptions, and I've dealt with it, and I still to this day it was. I don't want to say not just the easiest, but it was probably the most impactful because of what the information conveyed. Because here's the thing. Let's take your situation. You just tell that team, you know what? You guys are outdated. Here, we're going to put this email or the Power BI in Outlook, which I need to be an admin of my organization to do in order for that to work, or in Teams, which again, unless I can add it to the channel. And hold on.
Why do you need to be an admin of that? There's no admin
I
of
think
that.
in order to enable the feature, no?
I don't think so. I mean, you can just add it.
I'm thinking if you want an app in Teams, if I want that to show on my global sidebar.
Maybe
Yeah.
there, but there shouldn't. I mean, you can
I think
literally
it's all
go to
personal
Outlook.
per user. Yeah, it's personal per user.
If you have access to Power BI as a license, I mean, you do need a pro license to do it, right? So that's one thing that's there. But like, you can just just click the app, you click the Power BI. There's no admin privileges to this.
I'm thinking in Teams if you want it to show up for everyone on the sidebar. But anyways, so
regardless though, in both situations,
yeah.
Well, sorry, but to your point, in both situations though, whether it's Outlook or Teams, this is a decision made by the BI and leadership that says you're going to use less printable reports. We're going to turn on these features for you. And if your motive is to not email stuff out as much, you want people to just learn how to use PowerBI.com, learn how to go use the data. For sure, I'm bolting on those applications right into I'm putting Teams. 100%. I'm turning on Teams I'm making it turned on for everyone. I'm going to have it just there for people, and then because it's there, people will use it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but keep going your point.
And so for those types of people where again it's just information to them, quick information that they need. There are a lot of types of reports for a lot of different types of roles at companies where that snapshot of data that is contextualized is kind of more impactful than if I were to go to Power BI, find that report. Hopefully there's already have the dynamic role level security, whatever I need to do. It's the right page. Everything's already there for me to show me here are the leads that came in. Here are the things that came out. Cool. And now I can move on. Now, it's really hard to argue that though, Mike, for a lot of people, a lot of teams. I would love to bring everyone to Power BI. That's my number one goal. Listen, based on Kratos BI, I'm not the data god of data culture for nothing. So, but there, you got to understand though, like
I'm still going to argue, I'm still going to argue, even if you're looking at just a single report page, there's no advantage to getting it in your email box. There's no advantage. I still don't think that, I mean, the only thing I can really think of that makes sense to have data emailed to you there's already some security implications this as well. Like let's imagine this could be a huge, if you let users or you're teaching your users to subscribe to things and they're getting subscriptions of stuff, fine. Let them, I'll teach you how to do it. It's part of the system, no big deal. But if you don't have information protection policies on your data, there's nothing that says people can't be emailing this information out of your company immediately to somewhere else. So
totally, yes, I could post it on Twitter, just like I take a snapshot of it. So
totally agree. But the idea is that if it gets to when you talk about security pieces, your biggest security weakness is your people internally not adhering to your company policies. Like, this data is confidential. Don't email it out to anyone. And here we go. We find people emailing out files and forms and whatever. So, do we really know the use case for these data? Why are they getting sent an email to us? There's a security loophole here that if you get emailed it and you don't have Power BI information protection turned on, you're going to get data and reports that don't have that information protection piece added to it. Therefore, it will get emailed out and it could leave. So again, if you're thinking about your reporting, I think in some situations you're not going to want to turn this on for those reasons. Sorry, keep going.
That's it. That's if you don't have information protection on. If you do, it follows through the email. So,
and that's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, when I step into organizations with Power BI, most of them are not thinking about
Yeah.
information protection. And so that's something I'm usually helping them either set up or turn
Right.
on, or we're trying to work with. Again, it's information protection is more than just Power BI.
Yeah.
It's actually an Outlook, Excel. It is a Microsoft Office 365 information protection feature, and Power BI adheres to it when you're using it. So if you don't have that on for the rest of your Office products, one, that's a miss. You should start really seriously thinking about it.
Exactly. There's a bigger problem there than just
there's a bigger problem here.
Power BI.
Correct.
So here's the thing, Mike. Again, the situations here is it's really honestly shifting the idea from we're emailing someone a report to these types of reports, just like we talked about with pie charts too, honestly. It's about the context. Like it really is. And there are types of information, like, and all data is supposed to be as information. It's supposed to be just information. It's in number form. Just like if I wrote an email that was 2 sentences long, or actually to your preference, bullet points, and had the right information.
I like bullet points. Yep.
Right. And for a lot of people too, their version of bullet points is not going to the Power BI to look at a single report, right? Because it's the right information, the quick information of this week, something that has to be pre-filtered. Because here's the thing, email subscriptions will never work if it's not something that's dynamic or just a general report. That, in that situation, every single time, 10 out of 10, we're pushing them to Power BI. That's part of the data culture thing. But then there's a lot of these, I don't want to even call them niche, because they're not niche, because they happen all the time. And there's so many situations that something like this kind of makes sense, especially if you're starting out, especially if you are just starting with Power BI and you're going to tell everyone, like, again, unless you're the data czar and what you say goes, and if that's your role, great. But here's the thing, you can't force the sales manager or their manager right off the bat to start using Power BI. You can try, and if everyone says great kind of thing, but there's a lot of people that have to come for the long ride. I don't remember the philosophy, but there's always like, it's like a 60, 20, 20, like 40, 20, 40. 40% of the people will go right away whenever anything shifts. 20% will lagger, and then there's the rest just stay for a lot longer anytime you are trying to shift into a new tool.
You're speaking to the adoption curve, and I think it's actually much less than that. I think you're going to have of your organization, 10 to 20% of your organization quickly adopts the new technology, and they're like, oh yeah, this is cool, I'll try the new thing, let's do it. And they learn it and they do it. And then you need to get to, as you adopt the new tool, when you get to around 40%, or a little bit around like that 40 to 60% ratio, at that time, now you have enough ratio where you're saying you've now gained critical mass, and now people are regularly investing, getting into the tools. So yeah, I see what your point is there, Tommy. But on the other hand too, if your company is starting from whatever, people migrate from other tools all the time, right? And where I see this is coming from, this has been bad habits, or this is bad thinking from other tools. It's coming from like Click or Tableau or other reports. Any visualization tool that you're using nowadays, there usually is some aspect of them being able to email reports out, because that's what a featured people ask for is. But my argument would be is you don't really want that. What you really want is concise information shown to you on a single page that you can look at and leave. So, and the only situation I can see here where emailing yourself information or reporting pieces is coming from paginated reports. Paginated reports feels to me like that's the only thing I would really want to email to people, because what happens is we're taking a large semantic model, or a semantic model that has information specific to you, Tommy, going back to your example earlier around sales leads, right? There's a larger pool of information, all the sales information. I'm catering the information to just you, Tommy, and then I'm going to send you the email link of a little bit of data, enough information that you can then go through that list, import it to Excel, open up the CSV file, open up the Excel file, whatever the thing is, and then just say, okay, I've gone through each one of these leads and I'm making comments or information against them. and I'm taking data that I'm getting from the model and I'm doing something else with it, something else ad hoc. So whenever I got data emailed to me from systems, it was always to get it emailed to me in summary form so I could then pick it up and do my own data analysis with it after the fact. To me, that's the only use case that I see here to put data. And again, if I had to rank or prioritize things, I would prioritize less of getting the data emailed to me because, again, I just don't want to junk up the email inboxes. Again, a lot of this is online, right? So, in the old day, I'm thinking, there were servers on in the organization, and those servers would fill up because the emails take up space, and you had to have them there. So, IT had to figure out how to. And now it's all in the cloud, so it's a lot less of an informational effort. But in my opinion, I'd rather have that report like push the data or the CSV file into like a SharePoint page. And then if I'm building downstream processes on that, I could get the data into SharePoint. I can point my other Power BI semantic models or whatever my local analysis done, Excel or Power BI. I can point to that SharePoint drive. I can immediately pick up the information, and now I can build automation loading of that data that comes out of the semantic model in a subset or pre-filtered view. So to me, that's the only solid use case here of like why you'd want to email people. And even then I would argue, again, there's this data shift culture here of like when you move from these other tools, you have the opportunity of setting the culture for your company. And I think the culture here is, I need to show you, we're making the migration. This is the way we will do things. And then you do a heavy amount of education around making it easy for people to do this, use these new techniques.
So it's funny you say about shifting from a different product, because to be very fair, there's a lot of organizations who have had Power BI for years and they still haven't adopted it from a data culture point of view. And so to me, there are people who are in the same boat as anyone who's just coming from a new tool, because
they're coming from something.
Yeah, but even if they 4 years ago, kind of. Well, that's what I'm trying to say is.
But if they've had Power BI for 4 years, they're still doing something with whatever. Like the reason they're not adopting is because they're still just using Excel or Access databases. There's something else that's supporting the reporting that they need to do anyways. Right. So
it's not they're moving from Click or from Tableau.
Maybe not, but they're coming from Excel or Access. They're coming from other products they have. So like, regardless of whatever you're doing there, even if you had Power BI for a number of years and the company hasn't fully adopted it, I find the issue here is it's less about the person asking for of something to be emailed to them, and it's more about data culture. It's more about no one has spent the time to understand the use case and actually articulate it back to the business. Here's what we should be doing. This is what Power BI can do. By the way, for everyone, your reports will be driven to you via powerbi.com. Go to Outlook. Here's how you get to it. Go to Teams. Here's how you get it. Like, to me, there's an education, and that should be, again, as the central BI team, the Center of Excellence, these are things that they decide of like how as an organization we want to behave, and then that gets pushed.
Fine, but again, if they've been 4 years and they have adopted data like Power BI yet, they probably don't have a Center of Excellence. So
there's someone making decisions about data.
Yeah, there's someone, but
and if they're not, it speaks to the effect. I mean, if you don't have some thought or forethought around a centralized team thinking about what your data needs are, or there's not a person doing this or building centralized things out to the organization, already you've told me what your data culture is like. Already, yeah. I already know it's immature. You're not doing the right things. It's not mature enough on the scale. And when I go to the Power BI adoption roadmap, you would score very low on the
1,000%. That means they're not adopted. We know that.
Well, and that just means in general, your data culture needs growth. So no amount of tooling, no matter what you provide, Click, Tableau, whatever, no amount of tooling is going to fix that problem. That's a core different kind of problem you're trying to solve for. So to me, I'm looking at going, if you're at that level and you're saying we're just now trying to adopt Power BI and it's still not even getting out to the organization, and you're pushing for, I just need you to email everything to me, that just tells me we're very low on the data culture scale.
And again, the words here, email everything, I agree with, but let me see if I can make a compromise with you, at least for the time being.
I'm still waiting to hear an example of like something that's useful in emailing stuff yet. Like you've said some examples here. I get your examples, but to me, they're still like, Why can't I just use a report?
Because
Doesn't
you
seem
love Power, you live in Power BI. It's what I bet you 80% of your day there's a tab open that has Power BI on it every day. 80%. If
Ah,
you had a tracking tool, whether or not you're on it, I bet it's a pinned tab.
well, I I would
So
well
this is
everything. There's a bookmark for it in every browser that I have. I'll give you that.
oh,
Every browser. If I'm working on a client work and I start a
yeah.
browser for every single client, the very first bookmark in
Okay. So
every
we
single
are different.
everything every single edge that I have has the very first bookmark is always powerbi.com for every tenant that I'm in. So like,
So
yeah, I'm with you. Like it's,
let me break
but
your
that's what it
heart.
should be.
No, I'm gonna break your heart. Not everyone feels the same way about Power BI. I know, and it hurts me too. It hurts me
Grow up,
too.
people.
Okay.
Grow up.
And again, like I agree with you. I was trying to think of examples permanent to you that would have been nice for an email, like in a day. But I'm like, Mike's never gonna. It would never work. I was
It's
trying to
not that
set you
I'm
up. I was trying to set you up, but it's
well.
not gonna work.
To be clear, I'm not against it. It's more
No,
along the line of like I don't see any reason why I couldn't just replace it with an equivalent
of
report.
course you could.
And
Of course you could.
but that's my
So,
point, though.
but
My point is any argument made against these things, it's easily replaceable.
just because you can create it doesn't mean again for certain situations where people who don't bookmark Power BI and when the first thing they do when they get a new browser, who maybe forget to do it, or again they only have very specific information out of all their semantic models and all the data culture land. There's only a little bit that's important to them, but that's essential to what they do, right? Of course, there is a report that they can see. There is a report that they can dive in, but there's a lot of information from supply chain again to sales to what are my top product or like what broke last night or whatever the situation was that maybe occurred in the last 16 hours where I'm already checking email. And I guess what I live in so many other technologies and products that I could go to Power BI, but is it already filtered like that? Like where that quick bit of information is. Again, this is where the shifting, where this email subscription is no longer about sending a report. Because if that's the perception, then we're thinking about this wrong. It's taking all the data that you've created and all the structured and semantic modeling and using semantic in the context of what it actually means and providing the right bit of information to the right people. Again, you of course, all of it can be done in a report. There's a lot
Hmm.
of people who were simply taking all this work that we've did and bite-sizing it down to 2 bullet points. And man, those 2 bullet points are essential to them. And that's all they'll ever need. And that has nothing to do with the data culture. That's a lot of roles. And it almost feels frustrating to say that too because of all the work we've done. But that's kind of the job at the end of the day is to take all this raw data, give it a schema, give it semantics, and make it just information that people all walks of life can understand in my organization.
What's the difference between getting an email report and analyzing Excel?
You are shifting gears, but I would.
You ready, Tommy? You ready? I'm gonna attack. Okay, you have an argument, and I'm going after the foundation here. All right. So what is the
I
difference?
think
Like,
those are completely different situations. The two
okay,
different
tell
people.
me, tell me how it's different.
I want to hurt my brain, so I go to analyze in Excel. So I want to get a headache, so I go to analyze in Excel. No, analyze in Excel is I'm looking at something already in Power BI, and I want to dive in further with my own context. I want to take the data that I'm seeing, or this I know the data to have. I want to provide my own formulas and see in a different way. We use analyze in Excel for business analysts usually only. That's when our adoption, like actually just a project I worked on last year
Hmm.
was analyze in Excel was not for the consumer. Like it was kind of available, but we pushed it for the business associates who already lived in Excel. And
Correct.
that's different because I'm probably someone who already has Excel open more often than not. Like
Okay.
for
So
yeah.
let me hang on that point right there. So for the use, so there's a couple of use cases I see here, right? The reason I'm seeing the two arguments I'm hearing you say is one is, paginated reports are for those users or those teams that just need data that's just sent to them. It's a glance look at some information, and then I'm moving on to my day. It's something that's just available to me in my inbox. I look at it and move on. the other hand of this one, I'm looking at this going, there's another use case specifically for these users that are getting CSV files given to them. And what they're asking for is they're asking for up-to-date data in the most recent version of the semantic model. So I think where I'm formulating some thoughts here is, my argument is, as I look at all the effort that we're doing to build semantic models, as I look at all the effort we're doing to like it, this cost the investment of our company. We've already made the committed decision to say we're going to spend time with a consultant, with some other people. We're going to learn how to semantic model data, and maybe even get to the point of like, we're going to make sure that some of this stuff is certified. We're going to build things that multiple teams need to use and consume. That's going to cost companies money and time. That's things they have to build in lieu of doing something else. So my argument would be here is, why spend all that time, money, effort to build this more modern thing and then just go back to habits of emailing it out to everyone, right? So, I mean, the other part here too is like, what are the use cases of what we're talking about here for emailing? I would argue it's just look at the report quickly, and then I need to have that data or export it to CSV so I can then do further analysis with it. Well, in that situation, I would just push people towards, okay, well, you don't even need to go to PowerBI.com. Here's an Excel file connected with Analyze in Excel to your semantic model. We've already invested the money, the time, the effort into the semantic model. Therefore, here you go. Here's the solution that you need, and it's better than what you've been doing previously. Oh, and also, it's also, not only is it better, you can also get refresh data throughout the day, because maybe we're refreshing the model every hour, right? You get people to adopt your new way of thinking by making their life easier, whatever that may be. And so if you can't provide more story to the actions and the features of why Power BI exists now for your organization, it's going to be much harder for them to like
1,000%. Oh, I am with you.
They're going to migrate to this new thing. So going back to your point here, like, again, I know, Tommy, you're kind of still working on this thought here around this one. I think this is just purely a data culture move around what is really valuable to the organization, and just really evaluating where is your effort coming from. And again, since you've already spent the effort to make semantic models and the investment of time and money there, you just got to finish out the story. You've got to complete it and make sure that you have the rest of it done and let people use it.
So when I'm doing training and introducing Power BI to an organization, and I do this both in Dashboard and a day and other ones, the wow factor that I do that say, hey, we're about to spend 8 hours together, or hey, you're about to invest all this money in Power BI, is we show them a report in Power BI, show how it works. But what I then show them is, oh, look, I can now analyze in Excel. I can use it in PowerPoint. It can be used, and see that in Teams as well. And the point that I always try to convey, or the pressing point, is this was all a report. When you think of a report, this is a single model of data that is now living across Microsoft and is now your source of truth. And I honestly, the analyze in Excel, there's a reason why it's there, and Microsoft has not taken it away, is because
it's because there's 700 million monthly active users in Excel, and there's 30. So on the most recent sales call from Microsoft, they said there's 30 million monthly active users for Power BI, and there's like 700 million users, monthly active users. I don't know if that's from their sales call, but there's 700 million. Like, you're talking about like a 10x, over 10, 20, 200x increase in users.
Source of truth.
So you have to integrate with Excel. Like, Excel is the business tool that everyone uses. I mean, they're almost at 1 billion users. That's almost 1/8, 1/7 of the entire world population. I mean, I can't even fathom building software for 1 million users a month. Like, that team must be massive inside Microsoft, because the amount of revenue that thing's pulling in and are bringing back to, like, that's crazy big, dude. So to me, like, looking at this, you've got to bolt into where the people are, for sure.
Yeah. So honestly, and I think that's a nice wrap here, because I'll kind of say in your closing thoughts, but honestly, Mike, when it comes to, if I'm sending out emails to everyone and I'm just sending them the reports that I have, it's going to do more harm than good. Everything you said, I agree with. I completely agree with that. I want to push. You have to push people to Power BI that way. But just like there's situations with Excel, with analyzing Excel, where I can give them the source of truth.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there are pieces of information that we need to bite size into bullet points for people that it may be the whole world in a semantic model in an ocean that someone just needs to see in a cup, so to speak. And if I can do that where I'm meeting them where they're at, well, there are good situations. Now, if we can eventually move everyone to Power BI and we can give them more things to look at in Power BI, great. But to me, email subscriptions is one of those features in Power BI that it should not allow you to do it. It's one of those, it's almost a case of really, it's too easy to create. Like, just like everything in Power BI, which is awesome. I can create like a database in, 2 minutes or
Sure.
less. But there are some things that are just too easy to create because of the implications of it. And to me, email subscriptions should say, wait, you're just sending a general report to a team. Are you sure you want to do that? Where it needs to have predefined filters. And it should be something much more specific to actually have any impact.
I mean, at the end of the day, Tommy, regardless, people are going to ask for this. They are not. They're going to request the ability to email things. It's just, again, it's one of the. To me, it's a feature that every other tool has. Power BI also has it as well. They've done some really interesting things around like dynamic subscriptions, which I think is very useful. You can then dynamically create filters for reports that give you narrowed down information. Awesome. Do agree. I also think that the Microsoft product team has done a really concerted effort to make sure Power BI is as close as possible. I remember when Power BI came to Teams, everyone was really excited about it. Like, wow, it's in Teams. We can have conversations. I can email you reports. All these things, like where Power BI becomes this much closer aligned object to what's happening in Teams. And I think it came in with a lot of fanfare, but in practice, do a lot of people actually use that over and over again? Probably not a ton. It's probably not a ton. So, I do think, there are habits that need to change. I do think people are going to go with this. I think what we're really addressing here is a data culture challenge as we look at this, experience of getting into using Power BI.com versus having everything emailed out to you. So I think if you understand that and you are a leader in your organization, you really want to focus on what can I do to help users understand how can I make your life easier by giving you more capabilities inside PowerBI.com, right? And showing you how to do the things you need to do. At the end of the day, there will be people that need subscriptions. I think what I would put is my final thought here is, if someone is going to ask me to show them that feature, I'm going to clearly say, I will show you this feature. There is better ways. So I will teach you this feature only if you allow me to teach you a couple other things as well. Right, rightfully so. I want to make sure people are experiencing the full, capabilities of what the program is for. And then I made a note here that said, if you are getting requests to do that, I really wish there was like a kind of a closed loop here to some degree, right? The subscription would turn on, the subscription would then send you emails, and if those emails never got opened, right, for like a month, then it just turns off the subscriptions automatically. So maybe, and maybe the subscriptions things could be like a short-lived something, right? They should maybe live on for, subscribe to it, give you the subscriptions for a period of time. And at some point, the subscription just says, look, I'm smart enough to be aware that you're not actually opening these emails anymore. I'm just going into a folder and it just turns off the subscriptions. Realistically, right? That could be a thing. I would even argue, like, if you want snapshots of reports in time, okay, fine, we will email you them, but we will no longer send it to your email. Instead, we'll put it to a SharePoint drive. So I think there's also some like progressions here. I think emailing things is like the lowest bar of the ladder. And then as we like work our way up, we start talking about, okay, the next bar of the ladder would be, let's push things to SharePoint pages so you can have a tracked record of every day when this report came out. You're not junking up your inbox and you have a record of those things. And oh, by the way, when you move on from your organization post, and you're no longer here with the company anymore because you've gotten a promotion or you've moved on, where did all those reports go? Who's using them? Are you going to forward all those emails to someone? It's now just like wasted information. So, that next level up of push things to SharePoint, I think is a better solution, because then when you move on, that record of information could still live on in your organization. So that's next level. And then I think your third level on the rung is, let's start integrating the Power BI experience closer to where you're already using other tools like Outlook and Teams. Let's teach people how to use the product as
Build
it's
bridge.
intended and build a bridge. So I think that's, to me, I'm like, I'm not going to stop you, but I'm also going to say, like, look, there are better ways. And somewhere on that ladder, maybe between rung 2 and 3, is like analyze in Excel is somewhere in there as well, because you need access to the data. At some point, you're going to get people smart enough or comfortable enough to be their own analysts, and they're going to be an advanced analyst. So you're going to give them direct access to a semantic model and say, go build your own stuff. You understand the information enough. Or, hey, here's a bunch of lakehouse tables. Go build your own semantic model on top of the lakehouse. So there's going to come a point in time where the adoption or certain teams are going to understand the system better, and you're going to give them deeper access all the way down to table level at some point in the future. So that's kind of the progression I see. And that's kind of what I teach to. I teach that direction to people to let them know, like, that's what I'm trying to get them towards. Anyways, lots of thoughts. Sorry, I'm so opinionated on this one.
Honestly, two funny things that you said that I can't let go without.
Sure, go ahead.
First off, the idea of email, I will teach you email subscriptions, but I'll teach you a better way, is the same as saying, I'll show you where McDonald's is, but only if you let me show you where Smashburger is too. So
Or
like,
Culver's.
Culver's. Oh, sorry, that's the Milwaukee thing. Yes,
That's the Milwaukee version.
Actually, we did a burger test. Our family kind of. I think.
Your family did.
Yeah, so it was like one of those cold, not snowing day.
That's a fun idea.
Oh, it was phenomenal. We went to, I think it was like 6 different fast foods, just cheeseburger, no ingredients, blindfolded.
Yep.
Everyone ranked it. I think I put Culver's 2.
It's pretty up there. It's pretty up. I mean,
not bad.
Well, I've heard people. We don't have In-N-Out Burger.
Insane.
Yes, and there is In-N-Out Burger like down the south, and I've heard a lot of people rate like the In-N-Out Burger. So I took my family there. We had some animal fries one time, and they were like loving it. They're like, "Oh, this is so good." I'm like, "They're like, this is way better than Culver's." I'm like, I'm not sure about that, guys. And I've even seen people like influencers on the internet like going, "Well, Culver's is almost the same level of goodness as In-N-Out." So I think there's a level there that we're talking.
Yeah, here's the difference though, because again, not coming from the Midwest initially.
Yeah.
My brain explodes every time I go into Culver's and I see the thing called cheese curds. Like, yes, I the idea of that's so insane. It's amazing.
Fried cheese is crazy.
Just incredible. So
yeah. Awesome. So in your test, you were finishing your story there, Tommy. I didn't mean to derail you. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was saying that we put Culver's up there. I think I ranked it 2 or 3 out of all.
What was number 1 though? That's the most important thing. Do you remember?
Portillo's.
Portillo's. Interesting.
Dude, they got a good burger too.
Okay, I did not know that their burger was so good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, other than that, I don't have anything else. That's a good wrap up for this episode. Burger. So if data ever goes south and people really just decide to email everything and the reports, and they're no longer needing Tommy or I to help them build reporting anymore, we will go do a food taste testing
across the nation. We'll take it on the road.
We're gonna go find the best burgers in the U.S. Awesome. So Tommy's already hungry. He's gonna go have a burger now for breakfast. That's hilarious. All right. That being said, thank you all so much for your time listening to this podcast. We know your ears are valuable. There's a lot of things you could be listening or watching or entertaining yourself with. So thank you for spending time with us. We hope you found some value in what we were communicating to you about Power BI subscriptions, the things that we're learning in our consulting and daily jobs around Power BI things as well. Hopefully you'll take some of these things away and think about them. The whole goal here is to just get you thinking about this topic, this area, and how does this fit in your data culture inside your organization? Maybe you like some of my points. Maybe you're on Tommy's side, a bit more of like there are use cases and you're just going to stick with paginated reports. So that's okay. I just won't talk to you. So that being said, if you like this podcast, please share with somebody else. Let somebody else know this was a topic that you were interested in. It was kind of useful and it helped you unpack a little bit more about Power BI and understanding subscriptions to some degree. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us at Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. Share with a friend since we do this for free. Do you have a question, idea, or a topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Head over to Power BI Tips /podcast. Leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join the conversation on all Power BI Tips social media channels.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.